That didn't take long, did it? Hello, Auburn, Alabama, and all points around the globe where War Eagle can be heard and returned with joy, particularly on this Saturday afternoon following our beloved Auburn Tigers' 40th consecutive non-conference win. Our beloved Auburn Tigers basketball team is now 20-1. 20-1. That sounds pretty nice. And 9-0 in the conference, I do believe. And that sounds pretty nice. The coach has earned his pay for the day. Anyway, I told you I was gonna utilize this resource a good bit more. So once again, I'm going live. I know there's nobody here, but I'm building the library. So anyway, come on over from Twitter, come on over from watching the game, whatever you're doing. And when you find the podcast and the video cast, the YouTube channel, please click the subscribe button so we can start building the fun here, building a little momentum and having fun. Again, nothing earth-shattering here, just talking Auburn, having a little fun. Auburn stuff. Talking Auburn stuff. When I picked that name, I knew it was going to be utilized across the board because that's kind of a ubiquitous expression, and that wasn't an accident. So anyway, Auburn Tigers victorious today over the Oklahoma Sooners, and I believe the final was 86-68. And Wendell's knee looks okay, right? If you've listened to the podcast, you know that I'm among the things that I value is the correct pronunciation of our student athletes' names. They deserve that. Everyone deserves that. No one should go through life having their name mispronounced because of laziness. I know that for a long time, they on auburntigers.com on the rosters, they have the little ear icon next to the player's name, and you could click on it and hear a little video audio clip of the actual player saying their own actual name. And somebody has let that slide recently, but Wendell Green, for example, I'd say it's about 50-50 between the people who say Wendell and Wendell. And I know there's two L's on the end of his name, but I heard my general rule is unless I hear it out of the player's mouth or their mama or their daddy or whoever, then I'm going to not commit to a pronunciation, or I'm going to try to figure it out. Now, in lieu of having heard Wendell pronounce his own name or Wendell's mama pronounce his name, I heard BP say Wendell. So I'm going with Wendell until I am notified otherwise. So Wendell's knee looks okay. I'm sure they had that. You know, it had to have been bruised. I mean, that was a big collision and it hurt, and it was 4 days ago. So I'm sure they had some numbing spray or something on there now, but he looks okay. Everybody looked good. You know, I thought about this. We all have superstitions and weirdnesses, and mine, I have this thing. What do you have a weird psychological process during the game that allows you to sort of work through the anxiety and the angst, as it were? I do this bizarre thing, and I have no idea why. I guess it's like a comfort thing, or like a weighted blanket or something like that. It just helps me kind of process it, and it's really goofy. And today I started it about a minute and a half into the game. We were up by 4, I think. And I start saying, all right, we can lose the next 17 and a half minutes of this game by 3 points and still win. I do that. It's ridiculous. Or, you know, it's like we're up by 14 in the second half, and I'll go, we can lose the next 7 minutes and 30 seconds of this game by 13 points and still win. I don't know. Do you have any weird stuff like that? I know you do. We all do. Another little superstition that was born, not superstition, but just a little quirk that was born several games ago. I'm going to pull up. I started doing this. I want to say Florida, Alabama, Ole Miss, Booger Eater U, Kentucky. I want to say I probably started this at maybe the Ole Miss game. It might have been the Alabama game, but I think it was the Ole Miss game. I have this candle, which I'll throw a plug out to Auburn Art there on, that's bright. There it is, on College, between Big Blue Bagel and Toomer's Drugs. I have a bunch of stuff from there, of course. Every time we're in town, I buy something from there. So shout out, plug to them. Anyway, I have this little candle, which is just really predominantly just decoration. And I think it was the Ole Miss game. And I'm looking around. I'm one of those people who will change clothes if things aren't going well. I know it. Hey, my superstitions do not affect the outcome of the game. Do you understand that? I will solemnly swear and aver to the fact that my superstitions do not. Nothing I wear, nowhere I sit, nowhere I am, nothing I say or do affects the outcome of the game. But it does. So I'm sitting there and we're down by, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 points in that game. And I'm thinking, I have to do something. I had already changed clothes and whatnot. And so I looked around and I said, I'm going to light this candle. This candle will be good luck. And sure enough, I lit the candle in the second half and we were down. And of course, we came back and won because we haven't lost anything. And then maybe it might have been the Florida game that I did it. Anyway, the candle is undefeated at this point, and I have lit it at key junctures. I even lit it during the Georgia game when they pulled to within like 16, and it pissed me off because we should have won that game by 30. They got a little lazy, which can happen when you're absolutely, embarrassingly, dominatingly blowing a team out of the water in the first half. I mean, look, whatever. Walker starts shooting threes and dumb crap, and all of a sudden they make a few threes and they pull back in. I even lit it during that game. The Missouri game, I waited and waited until the crucial moment, and I think it was with about 5 minutes, maybe 4.5 minutes left in the game. I lit the rally candle, hereby forever known as the rally candle, and you all know what happened at that game. Today, we never trailed, but once again, just like the game against the Booger Eaters from Athens, I said at some point early in the game, all right, do not let them get back to within 6. And when they got to back to within 3, I think it was 3 in the second half, out came the matches and lit was the rally candle. And I think you know what happened from there. I believe it was KD felt the power of the rally candle, because that was that little stretch of time where he said, all right, you guys, y'all take it easy for a second. I got this. I'll take care of the next few minutes and get us back to where we need to be. So anyway, rally candle is undefeated. Rally candle has good timing. Again, as I said, 40th consecutive non-conference win. That's pretty ridiculous. And that hasn't been a bunch of, I don't know, a bunch of, Lipscombs and Morehead States. That's been some pretty talented, teams that have come through here. In Oklahoma, make no mistake, we beat them by 18. Should have been 20, but the garbage basket at the end. Speaking of which, our last basket, how weird was that? I wonder who got credit for that, because that shot that was supposed to be an alley-oop actually turned into a shot and it went in without any help, which was fun. So the final score is interesting. Actually, we pulled out a little bit more than I thought we were. I thought they were going to dribble out a little bit more. because they had a 14, 15, 16 point lead, but they kept scoring. And I thought it was going to work out to be this pattern that I've noticed over the last, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 games, most of the season. Have you noticed this pattern, with the exception of the Missouri game, which was a fatigue road game coming on the heels of a huge win that got you your number 1 ranking? Look, that was your come back to earth game, and they took care of it. But anyway, the final scores, there's a pattern developing here, that has developed here, a theme of sorts. And so today was, what I say, it was, this is fantastic audio, isn't it? It was 86-68, right? So anyway, 86-68. And then you go back to Kentucky, 80-71, Georgia, 83-60, Ole Miss, 80-71, Alabama, 81-77, Florida, 85-73, South Carolina, 81-66. That's interesting. That is interesting. That's consistency. I mean, sure, would we like to see them win every single game 98-55? Sure. But a consistent pattern is developing, or has developed, that you like to see. So I thought that was interesting. This was a great start, you guys. Wanted to comment on that because even this team hasn't been immune. That it seems like for the last 5 years, we will tend to get out to a less than stellar start and have to either dig our way out of a hole or make up some ground, shall we say. And it was quite nice today to get out on top. I don't think we trailed today. I think we might have been tied at 2. And that was the last time that we tied or trailed, except for prior to tip off. So it was nice to get out to a good start, and it was nice to keep a lead and pad it a little bit. Of course, they made a run in the second half, midway through the second half or so, and got it down to 3, I believe, which was kind of annoying. But listen, they're a good team. They're a solid basketball team. They're well coached, and they play good defense. And they had some pretty decent 3-point shooters, and they played offense against us pretty well today. So I wasn't too twisted over that. But the great start was nice. It was a nice change of pace, as opposed to having to dig out of a hole. And in the past, meaning like 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, even 18, 19 to some extent, it's almost like they got in such a hole that by the end of the game, they were exhausted, whether they won, they came back and won, or came back and didn't quite pull it out. So it was nice to not have that. I'd love to sit through a game once at some point. I guess we had that for Georgia, but like I said, it was a little aggravating that we let them get back to within 16 or so. But it would be nice to sit and watch a game like this where my blood pressure isn't making blood shoot out of my eyes. But anyway, the one thing that I think we'd all like to see, and there are a number of reasons for this, whether it's sloppy ball handling, ridiculous turnovers, poor shot selection, or whatever the case may be. I think the next step for this particular team to greatness, this might have been the closest to a complete game that we've seen this year. The Georgia game notwithstanding, again, that was that because we were up by 25, 28 at the half, that just got goofy in the first 10 minutes of the second half. So you can't really judge it by that. So we just throw that out. This might have been the closest to a complete game that we've seen, I think, I think we've all been looking for out of this team to sort of see them reach their potential. But the next step, I think, is to start eliminating slowly but surely these long empty stretches, these long scoreless stretches. And today wasn't as bad as we've seen in the past. But they did go, there were a couple of times, a few times during the game where they went a couple of minutes, a couple, 3, 4 minutes without scoring. And if they reduce that by 25%, you're going to start seeing, instead of the average score being 82-70, you're going to start seeing 88-68 or something like that, 88-72. And I'd like to see that. And that, to me, again, shooters get cold. That'll happen. There's a billion variables you can't factor for when it comes to shooting the basketball. You can have a player underneath get whacked and they don't call the foul, whatever it is. Shooters can get cold. So it's really more about tightening up the ball handling in certain situations when they get a little bit sloppy, and about better shot selection on some possessions. And look, they're college basketball players. This is why they're here. They're working on their games, and the coaches will have that in hand. And this might be the first team that we've seen in the BP era that really largely perhaps eliminates those long scoreless stretches, which aggravate us so much. What else? Some of the rotations that we have, I think that some of those scoreless stretches today were indicative of particular rotations that seem to have issues with hands. I believe we have a bit of a no hands rotation. Not naming any names because I love all these guys, but it can be a bit vexatious when it comes to when we see those scoreless streaks and those turnovers start to go up. And Alan Flanagan, I was at the tip-off at Toomer's and watched Alan Flanagan before they canceled the dunk stuff, when they were just doing their shoot around. And I watched Alan Flanagan on one leg. He had I guess a cast on one leg, just sit there shooting baseline threes like it was just silk. Shoopa, shoopa, shoopa. And I was like, dang, gone, his shot looks good. How many air balls has he fired up this year? That's been somewhat vexatious. It was nice to see Flanny come out in his first couple of appearances and seem, with the exception of understandable rotational fit and rust, if you want to call it rust, he looked pretty good in his first couple of games. And it seems like he has, whether he's pressing to get back to where he was or to get to where he thinks he should be at this point in his career, it seems like he's having some odd, the last 2 or 3 games, he's had some odd possessions vis-a-vis really, really poor shots and bad ball handling, which is just unlike him. I think that Alan Flanagan is an absolutely outstanding basketball player, and I am ecstatic to have had him as an Auburn Tiger for so long. And he has a few things to tighten up, and we got some time before tournament play, and I expect him to see him turn that on. Speaking of Flanagan, did you see that there was a set play run it was about the 8-minute mark, and I want to say it was Jabari might have had the ball. I forget. There were 3 players involved, but it was so fast, and I didn't replay it. I didn't hit the back button on my YouTube TV because these TV broadcasters are horrible for the most part. and Andy and Sonny are awesome. So I will do my best to sync up the radio broadcast with the TV, and it's worth the aggravation to hear Andy and Sonny call the games because they're awesome. But anyway, so if I back it up, if I hit the rewind button, it's going to mess up my things. Anyway, I didn't do that. So I think there was 3 players involved in this. It might have been Jabari, where it was this bang, bang set play where somebody dished the ball to Kessler, who dished the ball, who I think set a screen. Then, no, that can't be right. But got the ball to Flanagan. Maybe Flanagan was setting the screen. It looked like Flanagan set the screen for Kessler and got the ball to Flanagan, who then released Kessler and dished to him for an easy bucket. I mean, that play, I'm describing it like an idiot, and I apologize. If you watched the game, you saw it, but go back and look at that right about the 8-minute mark in the first half. That was just dirty. Good Lord. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. That's the difference in this team and pretty much every other team, especially the last 3-4, is plays like that with the big man. And the big man, in this case being Walker Kessler, who is showing himself to be a full-fledged presence I believe he's a sophomore. Early in the season, it seemed like that they were either reluctant to or had trouble with or couldn't grasp the concept yet of getting the ball into the low post or getting the ball into the paint to this force of nature, this 7'1" force of nature. But they don't have that problem anymore. They figured that out. And I think lastly, it is really clear. And if you look at Devin Cambridge and Dylan Cardwell in particular, well, if you look at Wendell and at Zepp, those two guys are really complementary of one another. They play somewhat different games, but they're extremely complementary of one another. And the way that Bruce rotates them in and out, it keeps it keeps the opposing team a little on their heels for a little bit as they're rotating in and out. And so that's really nice to see. But when it comes to other dudes, and I want to make sure that I don't forget to talk. I mean, well, Katie, let's just stop for a second. Katie Johnson is the guy that says, well, first of all, he started hot. So he's got that going for him. And if just crap's not going right for a minute, it's all right. Katie says, I got it for a minute. We're good. Whether he's crashing the boards and drawing fouls or whether he's outside shooting threes, just insane. But his role, he knows his role. His role was never, I don't think at any point in time since he transferred over was ever up for question. But guys like Jalen Williams and Devin Cambridge, Dylan Cardwell, those guys are really figuring out their roles. Now, Dylan can be, I guess maybe a little reckless is the word, but he's refining his recklessness and he's understanding what he needs to do, what his part is. And it's dudes are figuring out gelling into their roles. And man, he played his role. There's like 20 people today that independently tweeted, it might probably more than that independently tweeted something to the effect of, hey, when did Dylan Cardwell become Dennis Rodman? And no doubt, Devin Cambridge has gone from that guy who feels like he needs to take every ridiculous 3-point shot that he can when the ball gets to him, is now playing excellent defense and rebounding and being a presence in the rotation. And the way these dudes have figured out and gelled into their roles, bodes extraordinarily well for this team as we approach February and then March into tournament season. So that's really all about all I wanted to get into on this one. I wanted to jump back on because, like I said, I want to utilize this resource as much as I possibly can, and I appreciate it. So I got to get to the gym. It is 4:50 in the Eastern time zone. Hope you guys are going to enjoy the rest of your Saturday and the rest of your weekend. And if you can take just a moment to subscribe to the Auburn Stuff YouTube channel, maybe head on over to Twitter and give me a follow over there so you can keep track of this stuff. As I mentioned in the earlier video, I'm not really snarky or clever or mean enough to have much of a presence on Twitter, but I put stuff on there every now and again. And I'll put the links to this on there as well. It's at Stuff Auburn on Twitter, and it's Auburn Stuff on Instagram. So appreciate that. You know that Auburn family supports Auburn family, and that's what we are here. So we got the Follow Fridays, and which basically it extends to follow every other day of the week on Twitter. And it's been fun watching the Auburn family support each other by just follows and retweets and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate any help from the Auburn family along those lines. But like I said, I need subscribers. I've never pushed the YouTube segment. I've always pushed the podcast. But like I said, I'm letting the podcast go and just having a little bit more fun with the YouTube side. So need some subscribers so we can continue to grow this and just have fun here. That's all I'm doing, having fun. And appreciate you coming along for the ride, and hit the thumbs up, like the video, and share the video as well. You know, that's the best thing that you can do to grow the presence and have fun here. And I look forward to seeing you guys here in this space. And as always, as we sign off, I hope you, this message, as always, finds you truly well and joyful. And as always, War Eagle.